Hello, children. Happy Monday. We're going to start. I'll give the on this day, and then today for class, you are finishing up your Chapter 8 ISN. Tomorrow, you'll do the lesson game, which a lot of you didn't do the lesson game last time, but this time I would heavily suggest doing the lesson game because you're also going to be required to take the quiz that day, and I bet that would really help. We'll go ahead and talk more about that tomorrow. But on this day in history, a dust storm sweeps across the nation in 1934. So these massive, look at those clouds, massive dust storms send millions of tons of topsoil flying across the Great Plains to as far east as New York, Boston, and Atlanta. The Great Plains part of the country would kind of be like Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Kansas, and New Mexico, that kind of region. So that area got just kind of decimated by these dust storms. So during the 20th century, the grassy plains of the Great Plains was over-farmed and over-plowed. So it was really, they needed a lot of things. Or they needed to grow a lot of things. And so in order to do that, you have to cultivate the soil. And in doing that, they kind of made this layer of topsoil that wasn't really useful. So some of the reasons that they were over farming and over plowing were because the U.S. entry into World War I in 1917. They needed a more wheat, so farmers pushed their fields to the limit to produce what was needed. And the invention of the tractor helped with the overproduction because it's easier, right? So you can do more area over a shorter period of time, which in turn usually means you're going to do more. In 1931, a few years before this massive dust storm, there was a severe drought that spread across the region. Crops died, wind began to carry dust from the overplowed and overgrazed lands across. And then the number of dust storms also increased in the following years. So they weren't as massive as the one in 1934, but they were getting bigger and more frequent. And then 1934 rolls around. And these dust storms, these smaller dust storms starting in 1931 culminated in this big one in 1934, the most severe one yet. It was over a period of 2 days, high level winds. Cotton carried over 350 million tons of silt from the Great Plains to the eastern seaboard. That's a lot. Just imagine that coming at you. I don't know. That's a lot for me to get a hold of in my brain. And then thousands of families were forced from their homes in Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Kansas, and New Mexico, and they were forced to California. If you didn't know, a large portion of California is also the soil is pretty crappy and it's kind of desert-like. So their farming didn't necessarily get better. They just had to kind of adapt to a new region. So next would come what we call the Dust Bowl, but this was not the Dust Bowl, but after this comes the Dust Bowl, which you've probably heard of. So again, today you're completing the final 2 sections of the ISN. The ISN should be turned in today. You will have new work being released Tuesday, and then Wednesday we'll have a lecture, and then Thursday and Friday you'll start the golden age of Athens, which is exciting. It's a little bit more of kind of what you know of Greece maybe now. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow.